Hello, everyone, and welcome to our third ever episode of Tavernside Chat. I am your Tavernkeeper Will. We are here with our tavern guest today, Rich. You might have seen him as Corvin in the Legends of Abhaile game. You've seen him as Faust in Shadows of Aloria. Please welcome to our lovely, lovely tavern, our amazing friend here, Rich. How are you doing today?
Doing well, buddy. Doing well. Yourself?
I'm doing quite well. I have my Gatorade, and so I we are getting to
I'm not
here.
going quite so PG with my drink choice.
What do you have there yourself? What's your tavern drink of choice?
I am gonna call it a lucky sevens, but really it's just a 7 and 7.
Fair enough. So today our topic is going to be about not about world building. That was last episode. Today's topic is about character creation. Today we're going to be talking about character creation. So, Rich, about how long have you been playing D&D at this point?
It's been a little under 3 years. Coming
Okay.
up in October, I want to say. I had just gone through a pretty serious breakup, and I saw a buddy of mine posted, "Hey, anyone want to play D&D?" And I said, "Sure." I've never done it before. Trying to broaden my horizons and kind of I've met some amazing people and gotten one of the biggest bugs ever.
Yeah, yeah,
And
fair enough. I
is
mean,
that is going in and just creating random characters for whenever.
yeah, I mean, I completely understand that. I've now coming. I started this game my freshman year of high school, and so I'm now coming about 8 years as a player, 7 years as a DM, and so I've been playing this game for such a long time. So when it comes in that time, I'm guessing both of us have created a lot of characters. So kind of what is your first thing that you usually like to do when it comes to creating a character? Like, where do you start?
Well, I'll start with one of my favorite characters that I've never played, and that is Saint Abby. I start with an idea. I want a character who's going to run around and stab people a bunch of times. Be able to go from this character to this character to this character and just boom, boom, boom. And my DM looks at me and goes, "Well, that's breaking the game, so we can't do that. But you could try this. You could try this. You could try this." And I went the way of a Kensei monk. So I had some fun. I had a lot of attacks. I could get in, get out. It was a lot of fun. But Saint Abby is still just sitting in the back of my head. Uh, I ended up making her a bladed singer.
Mhm.
Mobile, she can move, powerhouse, she can buff her attacks, she can do all. I cannot wait to actually give her a chance to play. But the way that I come up with a character is just proof of an idea, and it just snowballs from there.
Kind of commiserate there as well when it comes to using all spare time to think about D&D character concepts of something that you'd want to play. When it comes to character creation for me, I usually again start with an idea as well. I oftentimes when I doing these what you did basically, like thinking about a character, I'm going to use Liam Gallows for an example because he is
Oh,
someone who is
okay, Liam.
yeah, someone who just appeared on our on the main game, Legends of Abhaile. My guest character. I was given the thing of like, okay, cool. I like, I was, it was actually on a lunch break when I got the text from Jake being like, hey, would you like to guest star on Legends of Abhaile? And I'm like, of course I do, because hands down, Jake is one of the best DMs I've ever had the
Absolutely
pleasure
agree.
of
And
playing with.
that dude is willing to, like, I've called him at noon on a Tuesday or on a Thursday and talked to him till for like 3.5, 4 hours about just the most random nothing. And I've walked away with so much knowledge just from talking to him.
Oh yeah, he's a walking encyclopedia of the game and everything. And like it was basically the idea of I you so usually how I this is my character creation process. I always one if it's a game that I'm already coming into, I'm like, okay, what does your table need? Because every table always needs something. Like
Mm-hmm.
um if there was if I had a guest character coming into my usual Sunday game, I would say please play a healer, because there's not a healer at the table, and I give them a lot of potions, but oftentimes, sometimes you need that mass healing word spell to kick
I
in.
would love to
And so I
play a
was like,
healer. And I'm free
healers
on
are fun.
Sundays.
Healers are really
Healers.
fun. And so it was a thing. It was a thing that I was like, okay, cool. So I was given the things like here. I was basically just told by Jake, just don't play a warlock. That was the instructions I was given. And I was like, okay, cool. Looking at what the table had, like it seems like they need someone who has a little bit of healing capabilities, but also like a tank, like some kind of like a support tank. And I'm like, okay, I heard one of my friends text me, was like, hey, I have a horrible idea that you mix paladin and barbarian, because divine smite isn't a spell, you can smite while
Uh-huh.
raging. And I'm like, this is an evil concept, and I am playing this now.
I love it.
But
I absolutely love it.
yeah, but that's in a pre-existing game. And I'm like, okay, what is your world like? Because again, kind of talking about world, bringing it back to our world building conversation from last time. You can always find something in reading a DM's world lore document, and you're like, wait, no, this like that's a really cool idea you have right there. Tell me more about that. Like, tell me more about this one little thing, and you can absolutely build a character from there as well. But like, I I oftentimes think of like what fantasy I'm trying to go for with a character. So, my kind of pitch that I gave Jake was like, I want to play like cult leader, Moon Knight, Superman. Like that was like the three things I was trying to go for with Liam, like cult leader, Moon Knight, and like Superman. Like,
Did you
let's
just
say
spoil like something big for me?
what?
Did you just spoil something big for me?
No, he has been
Okay. Oh damn! I caught you, didn't I?
nah, it's fine. Okay, we can cut that part out.
We can edit that part out. Yeah.
Yeah, but like that kind of idea of like, okay, like but going back a little bit in the
Sorry,
conversation,
man.
yeah, usually like to try to think of what the fantasy I'm trying to go for the character, so I can absolutely understand like the like Saint Abbey or Stabby, as I'm now realizing, putting that
Yeah,
together.
that's the entire
Someone
reason behind her name.
no, that's so funny. Of like I'm like, okay, what can I do with the mechanics to try and like get the
Right?
as many attacks as possible? Like
In Saint Abby's case, her name came first. Her name
yeah,
came first. Like I've done that a couple of different times too. Maybe not the name, but when it's slow at work, sorry Kelly, I will pull up Hero Forge. Kelly's my boss. I'll pull up Hero Forge and I'll just play around with the different creatures and races and different things like that. And then I'll build to the mini that I design. Or if I'm going through images on Google, that's one of the most fun things to do for me because it takes no mind effort. You're just looking at other people's creations. And you're like, wow, that is a really cool drawing. That looks like a dragonborn sorcerer. I'm on it. And then I'll spend the next week and a half creating 14 different dragonborn sorcerers.
yeah. I mean, I completely understand that. I completely understand that there. Like, and I think that's so. When it comes to you and your world, your character creation stuff, is it the mechanics of the character, or like kind of the fantasy you're trying to go for with a character that comes first usually?
I go for the fantasy of the character first. I try to figure out exactly, like you said, what is needed in the party. And then once they say, hey, I need this, then I'm going back to my 40 different character designs that I've got sitting on my tablet and going, well, I can make this one a level 10 to meet the party and swap these out for this. And all right, I'm ready and have it ready to go. I absolutely love the utility of the app because it allows me to not have to start over from scratch.
Yep.
And it really allows me to get in there and play and look at the different spells and kind of create the combos that I want that would make sense for that character.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I completely understand that. Like, I personally usually do a make my character sheets on Google Docs, and just because I do not have the D&D Beyond app, and also I have very strong feelings about Wizards of the Coast as corporation. I do not want to give them any of my money. However, I know how good that app can be for people who to like quickly build a character as you're talking about, or just people who have a hard time figuring out like the mechanics of the game early on. So like in the couple of years you've been playing the game so far, like what is a character concept outside of Saint B that you've never gotten to play that's always stood out to you?
That's a good one. Our DM threw a hex barb at us, a hexblade barbarian. With that Eldritch Smite, just as you said, the what's it called? The Paladin's Smite.
Divine Smite.
Divine Smite. Thank you. Yeah, I mean it's pretty much that. You can burn through your, but you still have like that would be a really dope one. But I really am getting into a Blade Singer recently, and I saw a video from D&D Deep Dive. What do they call it? D4s something. I love that guy. I watch him all the time. And he put together the idea of an artificer blade singer using the two lightning gauntlets as your blade singing weapons, and I just love that idea. He's an armor blade singer, and I absolutely love the idea. I want to play with it so bad.
It seems like you're a really big fan of the Blade Singer subclass.
I am. Corvin is a blade singer, but when I went into Arcane Archer, I didn't realize that because that was only my second character that I've ever played. Corvin is the second character I have ever played. Yep, I played a monk named Solace. He was a Kensei monk, and my DM, who's Matt, who plays on Legends, he said, "Hey, we're doing this. We need a player." I said, "I'm in," and he's kind of sent me the sheet. Said we play on Wednesday nights. It's from home. Loved it. I've spent more money on computer equipment recently since I've got into the game, but I just absolutely love
it. I think one of the phenomenal things about this game is there's no right way to do character creation. I think that's absolutely like fascinating when it comes to building the game, because I mean, in this short conversation alone, we've already discussed multiple ways, like using like a mechanics first approach, using like an inspiration, like fantasy approach, the inspiration, or like approach, the fantasy approach, different stuff like that, or like finding out the needs of your party. Because I mean, Brennan Lee Mulligan, I will constantly say this, he's one of my DMing inspirations. He always talks about like whenever he comes into a game, he always like, okay, what is a character that would fit this world? And I think that's always an amazing thing to do when it comes to character creation. Like, think about like, okay, because there is like talking about the idea that we talk about verisimilitude, because character creation and world building go hand in hand, because while the world is like the DM's character that they get to play with, our characters are the thing that how we interact with the story. And so thinking about how each different element of your character kind of builds and creates something for a larger whole in the game, and making sure that they fit into the world. Because I mean, you can like, sure, you can come into a game and be like, I want to play Iron Man, but if you're in Game of Thrones, like coming in with an armor artificer with like intense steampunk isn't going to make sense. And so you always want to try and create something that is going to fit the world that your DM is trying to go to.
And that's one of the reasons why Jake, our DM, our Lord and Mighty Jake, has said, like, I wanted to take Corvin into an artificer just for the repeating shot for his arrows. I thought that would make so much sense. It would allow him to tinker and make trick arrows. But at this point in the technology and the time frame that we're at in the world, it just wouldn't make sense. But that's when Jake told me that by me just running up and grabbing the sword that Anna had dropped during my rescue, that straight up gave me the ability to go Blade Singer, because it's a longsword based off of Dex, and I'm like, what can I do with this? Focus on this. And Jake kind of mentioned to me, hey, you've got crossbow expert too. Now, usually we did a little modding of the rules to allow my arcane shots to be done with the handheld crossbow, but it has turned Corvin into a field like controlling master. Like, he's constantly dealing damage even if it's not his turn. The character moves, it can take 2d6, can dodge in and out. I took the mobile feet for him to make him even faster, so when his blade song is up, he's got 50 feet of movement, and he is just a hoss. And I absolutely love the utility of the character.
I think that's also something very, like, a huge part of it that you mentioned there, like when you talking with Jake or talking with your DM of like, hey, like the DM being like, okay, here's like, you can't do Artificer because that doesn't make sense for the world yet, because at the end of the day, what the DM says goes. Because like, if they say like, hey,
our Lord and Savior.
yeah, like, because this is a very player-centric episode. Unfortunately, the forever DMs, you can make all the characters you want, however, you won't get to play that much in any campaigns.
Well,
Don't worry, I know you're.
I mean, I'll say they get to make more characters than any other player does, because they're picking and building the characters and the bad guys and the people who you're killing. So they get to have the most fun out of any character creator, because they're constantly coming up with new challenges. And that's why in my one game that I DM'd for 4 games until people fell apart, I had so much fun with it, because I threw a hexblade swashbuckler at him. I loved that character. Get in, slam hard, get out. That's what she said. I threw a battle master warforged artificer. Like, I just had so much fun putting together the different characters, and most of them were built around an image that I found on YouTube or on Google.
Yeah, you know what? I actually haven't thought of it that way before, but that actually makes a lot of sense. Like, you know, as a DM, I think there's a difference when it comes to building a character for as a PC versus an NPC, simply because I think, getting to play as a PC is such a different experience than playing an NPC, because, like, it's the idea of like knowing everything versus being a character viewing the world through those eyes. But still,
that's where you have your skilled DMs, and you have your DMs who you can tell thought up of the campaign on their way into the game. Like, okay, I'm going to throw this at them. And I've played with some great DMs. I've played with a couple truly awful ones, and the story matters differently, and it matters more when you feel your character that you've created, you've put all this time into, all this thought and effort is really making a difference. And that's where the DMs come in, because they can take that time to say, okay, here's my character's 3 biggest things. How can I counter that right off the bat and make them think outside the box? And I think that's what Jake does. So I'm not just taking 14 different battle spells. I'm taking protection from good and evil. I'm taking feather fall, even though I never fly. Well, I fly, but you know what I mean. I'm taking these different spells for utility, and it's really making me think outside the box with the spells that I have left outside of, like, you know, the big ones that we should take.
Interesting question that, like, when looking at like ideas when it comes to world building, not world building, character creation online, do you think that is better when it comes to, because we always have these ideas of characters we would like to play. Do you think it's better to already come in with a preconceived notion of a character you would like to play versus keeping your mind open and like letting the world inspire something you'd like to do?
I would say it's a combination of both. I will, anytime I'm playing a new character, I am going to the DM, hey, listen, I've got an idea for this. And they'll tell you, hey, listen, that's just way outside of what we're going for in this campaign. Or there may be some that said, sure, you want to have a cryo laser? Go for it. Because they want to
Or
have
like a
fun with the
40
game.
a sword, like a shuriken sword that does 46 damage.
I mean, that would have been a pretty boss weapon. I think whoever brought that sword, this is the second time it's been mentioned, by the way, in 2 episodes. I'm going to go ahead and just say it sounds like it would have been a baller weapon.
Unfortunately, paladins cannot smite on ranged attacks.
That is what. Don't worry, I'll find out. I'll come up with a good thrown weapons master for that. That sounds like it'd be fun. Battle master with a big 4d4. We agreed on that. Spinning, throwing shuriken that zips back to your hand. Absolutely.
For the audience who is not in on the joke, because I'm realizing this is an inside joke, and there are 250 people listening to this podcast. For the upcoming campaign, Deadlight Symphony, again coming very soon. That is the next in the Abhaile Untold series. The character that Rich pitched had this like 4d4 shuriken weapon, and then we realized paladins can't smite on ranged weapons, so we went with a different idea.
Oh yeah. But hey, listen, my DM will be the first person to tell you I will bring some of the craziest freaking ideas ever. But I also have no problem being told no. But that is the biggest part of character creation. Shoot for the fences and be happy with what you get. Because most DMs are going to go, I see what you're doing. It's broken as hell. Let's try it this way. This might work a little bit better. And I'll tell you, Jake has kiboshed many character ideas, but he's also led through a bunch and worked with a bunch. And I've got some awesome characters sitting in my iPad waiting to be played.
I think that there's a very good lesson there of a no is not one. If your DM says no, listen to your DM. They are the arbiter of the rules, and if they say no, you like abide by their wishes. But also, like, again, shoot for the moon. If you miss, you'll land on like stars, or you'll crash and burn. But and if your DM lets you crash and burn, maybe they weren't a good DM anyway, and maybe you should find a new DM to play with, who will let you land among the stars.
I mean, straight up, I'm going to grab something off the wall here. I have it framed and hung up. Michael Scott saying, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. That is my theology in life. Miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you want to have fun with a character and you have an idea, see if it'll work. If it doesn't, move on. Save it for another game.
Or just talk to your DM and be like, hey, I would like to play this character, and be like, what can I change? Or like, this is like the core of what I'm going for. How can we have this fit your world? Like, I've played one of my amazing character I truly wish I would get to play. She's like a deconstruction, basically all the fairy tale tropes mushed into one. She was for a Curse of Strahd game where the DM was taking a lot more inspiration from like Grimm's fairy tales than classic gothic horror and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, well, if this is going to be a Grimm's fairy tale game, I want to play the Disney princess who's like, has speak with animals up all the time, like her interacting in this world. Because I think that there's something, right? Because I think there's something so fascinating in looking at whatever genre your DM is trying to do and finding something that's going to be the most interesting to like kind of shoehorn in there, of like either something that feels like it wouldn't fit and making it fit, or something that like hits it on the nail on the head exactly. Like the other people we had in that campaign, it was like a monk. And I forget a lot about the campaign, unfortunately. It was like 2 years ago. But like it was a monk and a druid, and both those other characters were phenomenal because like they were either people who had like deep secrets, or like the druid was very like body horror focused, and it was like a really, and like, okay, cool, we're all like, we understood the assignment here. Like the druid was like like very witch, like herbalist inspired. The monk had like a lot of secrets to her and everything, or like she had a dark
Herbalist.
past, like herbalist. And I'm like, a lot of like going for.
Mm-hmm.
Just like listening to your DM. So I have a game for us to play when it comes to, it's a character creation game. Do you have any dice on you at the moment?
Give me just a second. I'll go and grab
Okay.
it.
I will take this time to, as a reminder to our fans, that when it comes to getting your questions answered in this episode, or if you in the future, if you want to submit a question to the podcast, or even at some point submit a topic, even where you can find that all in our Discord. You can get that on our Patreon. Our cheapest option is what, $3 a month. I understand money is tight and everything. However, if you would like to join our Patreon, that is to get a question answered and even suggest a topic at some point, you can find that on our Patreon. So, welcome back. So we're going to be doing a character creation game today. So basically, how this works is we're gonna roll a couple dice. Both of us will, and basically we'll get a background, a class, a subclass, and then a ancestry, and we're gonna have to build a character based off of what we get.
Oh, okay.
So let's go. So I'm get out a D100.
All right. It's my first time I've ever rolled one of those.
I've rolled one a couple times. That's also just because I played a high level cleric before.
All right. I got my D100s.
I got a 26.
And a 43.
Okay, so for my ancestry, I got a high elf, and you got a rock gnome.
Oh, a gnome.
Next up, we're gonna get a D12.
All right. You didn't tell me I would need my glasses. All right.
Sorry, I'm young.
Grade 12.
You got a 12, so let me just, I got a 7, so very much doing a lot of this on the fly here. Oh, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got a high elf paladin, and you got a rock gnome wizard. Let's go for paladin subclass now. For me, so I'm just gonna roll it, and you roll a d10, and I'll roll a d10, and I'll just count down however many.
9.
So for your wizard subclass, you rolled a 9, correct?
That is correct.
1, 2, 3. You got an illusion wizard.
Ooh, never built one before. Never even looked at
and
the
so
class before.
And so for our finally roll 2d10.
Man, I really need to look at my dice. All right. The total is 8. I got a 7 and a 1.
Okay. So the character you're going to have to come up with, or like a pitch for who this character is. You are a rock gnome illusion wizard, and your background is a fisher. So you're going to have to figure out why this fisher is a wizard, and how. And for me, I got
Go ahead.
And for me, I got a high elf glory paladin with the background of criminal.
Ooh.
So now okay, so the fascinating thing is I think this is a completely coming up with a random character of like, okay,
Mhm.
cool. Like, we can either like use one of the many different things we've gone on of like, okay, cool, like, are we like, do we the fantasy approach, like, is this like the mechanics approach, all these different type stuff. I think the fascinating thing here is the background, because like, rock gnome wizard, of course, but then like, okay, why is this like, how did this fisher become a wizard, or how did this criminal be, like,
Around.
how is it, or yeah, how did this fisher, or how did the wizard how is the wizard a fisher, or how is it like this
Mhm.
paladin being a criminal and something, everything, like specifically a glory paladin, which is a very like Hercules or like Odysseus from Greek mythology. Like, that's your typical mythological hero there.
Mhm. So my rock gnome,
Yeah.
he grew up underground. He's a rock gnome, grew up
Yep.
in the mountains. When he was a kid, his father took him to a lake up in the mountain. And that was one of the best moments he ever had in his life, right?
Mhm.
So he goes about his day, he goes about his life, he becomes a wizard. Still remembering that day that means so much to him, fishing became his favorite hobby. So he uses a giant anchor, or even a small anchor, as not only a weapon he can throw at people, but as also an arcane focus.
Mm.
And he's pretty good with rope tricks, because the anchor's got a rope. So I would probably focus with him being an illusion guy. I would say he makes the best bait in town. He makes the best lures in town. It's exactly what the fish want. Like, that's what he does. So he uses his magic after he's retired. Oh, and he's retired from life. So he's just an old dude making fly lures with little magic and going out fishing every day.
I love that. I think I love that, because the idea of like, like including the fisher aspect, including the illusion aspect there. I think rock gnomes in D&D like live really long too. I
Mm-hmm.
forget. I truly, again, what two for two. I do not understand gnomes in D&D. Like, I have never gotten to the point where I've ever thought of like, I want to play a gnome. Like, it's never gotten to me. Closest I've got is I've done this for Nebulin and Baldur's Gate once.
Saint Abby is a gnome. She is a
Oh, okay,
force
cool.
gnome. So she has got that illusion ability. And that's why I made her a blade singer instead of like a hex, because as a forest gnome, she gets a +2 to intelligence, +1 to
Oh.
dex. So why not lean into it?
I think for my high elf paladin, the thing that's really jumping out about me is like, okay, glory paladin, but also criminal. And then I thought, paladin doesn't always there. The fascinating thing to me is when for 8 years ago, the greatest drama in the D&D community was the idea that all paladins had to be lawful good. And like, that was the biggest drama of people being like, paladins have to be lawful good, and there was a huge fight about this. And so I'm like, so high elf criminal glory paladin, my knee jump is they swore their oath that they swore to is to like some kind of fiend, or like some kind of like evil, like aligned entity. And so it is a glory paladin, so like they're kind of like, doing the whole like heroic chivalry thing, but in the name of like a devil of some kind. And so
Robin Hood
they're
type
this
of
kind of
thing.
like, what?
A Robin Hood type of thing.
Yeah, definitely. Like, someone who has sworn their allegiance to a devil but is still doing like heroic stuff in like, oh, this kind of weird like morally gray area there. Or again, you could probably just do Batman there, because Batman is vigilante, absolutely.
I mean,
You
I
could
was
make
thinking when it comes to a glory paladin, like you said, it's a Herculean. Why not make him? And since he's a criminal, Make him the son of Hades, Hercules' double,
Oh, or like
Hercules'
some kind of like,
counterpart.
yeah, some kind of like the spot, like some kind of like ball spawn type stuff, or like descent, like their family comes from like the bloodline
Mhm.
related, or that is like enchanted by like some kind of god of death, or some kind of like a
You can
this
make
would
that
honestly be a
as
real
an oath to that deity, to that ancestor. It could be an oath to yourself too. Don't forget that since they
yeah,
loosened the rules, it can be like Sasuke Uchiha, a straight oath to yourself.
yeah,
Speaking of, that's where I got the idea for the demon windmill, the
that
demon
makes
windmill
sense.
shuriken.
I've never seen Naruto.
It's
This
a
is fun. Do you
great
want to do
story.
another one?
Absolutely.
All right. Let's a two D100 again.
Okay, I'm gonna just use my red dot. It'll be easier to find. All right. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right. So we need the D100s, the 2 pointy UFOs. 96.
You got a tiefling.
Ooh.
I got Dragonborn for mine. A D12 4 for me.
A 9? Or is it a 6? You choose 9 or 6. That was a 9.
Let's do fighter. So you have a tiefling fighter.
Nice.
I'm gonna do a D10 for cleric domain. I'm a death domain cleric. Okay. Roll a D10 for your fighter subclass.
That'll be an Ocho. Chad Ocho Cinco. Number 8.
That's Psy Warrior.
Oh, nice.
You're like the Jedi class. And then
Yep.
roll 2d10. And then 2d10.
8 and a 1, so a total of 9.
All right. You're 9 for your. I got mercenary veteran, and you got knight.
All right.
So the character that you got is tiefling fighter warrior knight, and I got dragonborn death cleric mercenary veteran background. So the thing I immediately jumped to was a cleric of Tiamat, because death domain. This is another example of using the lore of the world. I'm like, well, Dragonborn, Death Domain cleric, and like that person perfectly works with Tiamat, and like having like some kind of mercenary veteran of like this kind of giant old grizzled like dragon, like probably red dragonborn. I'm imagining like scales missing, covered in scars, like someone who's been in the game for a long time, has like drenched himself in blood in the service of his like death god.
My guy, let's see. We have a. Oh shit, that's items that were for sale. Next page. Tiefling Fighter Psy Warrior Knight.
Yes.
My character shaved down his horns, kept them
Ooh.
hidden underneath full armor and a mask. He was one of the best jousters ever. Never seemed to miss. It's like there was an invisible hand that was guiding his lance directly to the spot every time. He was so renowned for his accuracy that he was knighted by the king. And when asked to show his hand, he removed to show his face. He removed his helmet. There are his horn subs. Where that goes, that's up to the DM. But to me, that's the background of the character and where the character's at.
You gave the fantasy of like the tiefling with like the cut down horns, and I immediately thought of like this like Hellboy meets A Knight's Tale from the sounds of it.
That's exactly what I was thinking. That is exactly what I was thinking.
Again, like when it comes to playing, like building these characters, like do not be afraid to steal the characters you would like to play. Like if there's a if there's a fictional character you love, like don't show up to your game with like Tony Stark or like Link from the Legends of Zelda. But I have gotten away with, yeah, like give him a new name. Like I don't know, Stony Stark.
One of the best sources that I have ever found for finding a lot of, well, for lack of a better term, nerd-focused media and character builds. My first DM, whenever I brought up St. Abby, he goes, go on there and look up Tulloc, Tuloc, the Barbarian. And he does this thing called building character, which is fantastic. He's funny, and he really breaks down the reasons why he gives what they give and explains the reasons why, and he does it quick and funny, and it helped me out a lot too.
Oh my god, I think one point in a campaign that we were doing, RJ, who was in Doctor of Alpha's Coalescence in Shadows of Valoria, in a home game that we were both in, I think at one point she did one of those, but with his build for not Doctor Valkyries, Lady Dimitrescu. Like she used his Lady Dimitrescu build for like once on a campaign, and like, hey, if there's a fictional character you want to play, steal them. There's one character who I've played who to this day, people had no clue that he was literally just Zero from Mega Man, Mega Man X. Like he had like the like blaster cannon, like the energy sword, like to 16-year-old, like not even 16-year-old Will. I think it was like, oh god, it was like 14 or 15-year-old Will. Like
you have to
Zero from
remember that when you were 14. I was 37 or 27.
Yeah.
I didn't have like my last video game system that I really owned and just adored was the Xbox 360.
Oh my god. See, I played I remember playing Mega Man X on my iPod Touch. So that is the the span of ages that we have here. But it's a fascinating thing to think about. Like, just steal the character you want to play. Like, I mean, I looking at, or take inspiration. Like in the first episode of the series, I talked about how when it came to my character that I played in the first Abhaile Untold, the Shadows of Valoria, Alistair was a character that I had already played in the past, but I had brought back. Another amazing thing you can do is this character you love, play him again. There's no one stopping you. But like, I had taken a little bit of inspiration from Meyer Wolfsheim from The Great Gatsby, because I'm like, well, that's a character archetype. Like, think of the archetypes you like and play those. So I'll start with, you mentioned Hellboy.
Well, I mean, I do have my favorite archetypes without a doubt. I did love the idea of a hex blade for the longest time. And then I looked into the coffee lock, and well, let's just say you might have a coffee lock paladin coming your way soon. But I find excuse me, I'm not even smoking. I find a subclass that I like, and I really explore the hell out of it. Like at my work, comic book, or the website CBR is the only one that will pull up with D&D content for some reason. So I'll type in Hexblade build CBR, and it'll just pull up like the different options, the different things, and different things I haven't heard about. Like, don't be afraid to research your character either, because no matter what idea you've had, this game has been around longer than Will's been alive, longer than I've been alive, and it's gonna keep on going. So someone out there has already put that combination together.
Oh yeah. Like I tell people all the time, like the internet is a phenomenal resource for this game. Like not only for finding free stuff online to help like kind of
sorry, we were going in different directions here.
Or we'll cut that out. Like the finding free stuff online to help you kind of like build your character concepts or finding resources. Like if there's a build that you're looking for, someone's probably already done it before. Like there's a looking up builds online is a completely fine thing to do. So we have about 10 minutes remaining, so I do want to get into our audience question that we got for today. As a reminder, for the you can put it. We'll put out these things in a little bit before we record, but we'll be doing audience questions go out onto the Discord. So subscribe to our Patreon if you want to have your question added there. So our audience question for today is from our Finicky, who was in our Shadows of Valoria game. Thank you for sending in our question for today.
Fellow elder millennial. Oh, I miss Finicky. She's such a sweetie.
Finicky asks, I always want to ask about character backstory and how much is too much / too little. Is it better to give a DM a lot of room to mess with a character's backstory, or does not run the risk of introducing something that the player might not like? Is it more of a collaborative effort during character creation? I think this. Thank you so much for this question, Finicky. Basically,
absolutely, Finicky. Thank you.
How much backstory is too much? I think that as a DM, I love when a character comes in with a very extensive backstory. Like as much as like if a character comes in with like a 30-page backstory, I'll be like, okay, what is the most important things? But characters introducing like this is like a Brendan Lee Mulligan quote, but like plot hooks. Like I see it like a
I see like a backstory. I'm going to stop you real quick. We need to get a little Brendan Lee Mulligan counter.
We do need to get a Brendan Lee Mulligan counter
every time.
How many times I mentioned Brendan Lee Mulligan? Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. But when it comes,
sorry, man, I completely threw you off.
No, it's totally fine. When it comes to like plot hooks, those are free. Like if I pull a name for your backstory, it's like, oh man, like. That is like some 9 times out of 10. Like in one of my recent campaigns that we're doing, I had like a tiny little rogues gallery of smaller bad guys, and I'm like, and you're from this person's backstory. Like there was a just offhanded side joke that one of my players made, and I wrote that names down. Like, hey, that person whose dad you killed, yeah, his son's out for revenge against you now, and they fought him like, a couple of days ago. Like, I do think that like. If you're coming with a 30-page backstory, let your DM know what's going to be what you are most interested in including, or like what you want to focus on the most when it comes to your character. But other than that, as a DM, I love when players come in with extensive backstories.
I will tell you, personally, I let the backstory fill itself in. We didn't even have I didn't even introduce Corbin by his real name until halfway through. I just gave up on the farce because no one asked, hey, tell me about you. But when it comes to like really your backstory and fitting it in, I would say definitely that's a collaborative effort. You need to make sure that you and the DM are working together, because your backstory could fuel an entire arc for that DM. He could say, you know what? The Durolos have come in, or they've been taken out of their home, and they've been taken over by whatever the vampire people were, and now that was all part of the back story that Matt Mercer incorporated in. I freaking love it. He's not putting all of the pressure on himself to come up with the story. So some detail, some background, a basic general thought don't just go in saying, I want to play an Artificer Blade Singer because it's cool. To quote Jake about 437 times, he's told me, and counting. We have one of those counters on the bottom for every time I message him. And so just because it's cool doesn't mean that it should happen. So if the only reason that you want this is because it's cool, think harder. Give me a reason. So yeah, it's definitely a collaborative effort with the DM because you're building a world together. You're telling a story together. So why fight against the person who has a choice whether or not they throw a dragon or a fluff at you?
Yeah, I think that, like, you know, I love, like, the because it's cool excuse is one of my favorite things that Jake always mentions. Like you mentioned it last episode, it's absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, I think, like, you know, when it comes to, and like, this is a collaborative role-playing game, it says so on the book, and so collaborating with your DM, but also I think maybe even collaborating with the other players at the table. There's been a couple times in which, like, you know, I've, like, had a couple players talk, like, we are in character creation, and, like, for a game that we're playing, and another player will, like, turn to the table and, like, hey, does anyone want to be, like, you know, like, does everyone want to know each other, like, going in? And I always think that's the most fascinating thing too, is building ways that the party already knows each other, or building reasons that people would interact, basically, because that's one of the things of, like, you know, there needs, like, the plot has to start for a reason, and so, like, your backstory is the reason you are in the story itself. And so I think it's fascinating to, like, when you already have those connections at the table, like, it's when Sam Riegel said to the people at the Shadows of, like, at the not Shadows of Valoria, at the oh god, what was it called? Calamity thing. Like, hey, does anyone want to be divorced? And Brie Iyengar was like, yes, absolutely. Like, I think that's absolutely phenomenal to have as a, like, letting your players create those connections is something phenomenal.
I completely agree, but not you don't always have to have like a reason for bringing them to. I mean, you've got to have a reason for bringing them together. But my favorite, when I DM'd again my one game that lasted for 4 sessions, I had the players wake up at their house with a golden orb floating above their head. And no matter what they did, they could not destroy it. They could not do anything until they touched it, and it just started playing them a message saying, your presence is requested at the castle. So, like, I had people try and hit it with a sword. I had a sorcerer just boom, 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 with 3 eldritch blasts at it. Just, I had everything. Until one guy just goes, I'm going to go up and touch it. Boop. Popped down, and a little scroll just popped out and said, you are cordially invited.
That's amazing.
That was the entire first game, was him trying to figure out how to get out of this, figure out what their next step was. It was so fun.
Yeah. Well, we are about at the end of our time here, so our last question, as always, I stole this from Pop Culture Happy Hour. Their thing of what's making you happy this week. Basically, is there is there a piece of media, a show, or anything happening in your life that you're really excited about, or, like, just something that's coming out that you are really interested in?
I'm a pretty simple guy. I have my dog, my cat, my house, my game, and my friends. I mean, that's what it takes to keep me happy. That and a good bowl every once in a while.
Yeah, fair enough. I
will say I was super excited to. I'm sorry, just popped into my head. I'm sorry for interrupting. I was super excited to see the episode of Agatha All Along that came out yesterday. I had a feeling it was him, but I'm spoiler-free chat.
No, that honestly, mine was going to be that exact same thing too. Of the most recent episode, I gotta say, this show is. I mean, we're recording this on 10/10, October 10th of 2024, and so like we are on episode 5 right now. That's the episode that we're recording that. But the needle drop at the end of this episode, truly, this has been some of the best MCU content that has come out recently.
And they
All of
did
the like
such a good job of keeping it tight-lipped the entire time too. They did
yes.
such a great job.
So that is about the hour that we have here. So that this is our we are in closing time at the tavern. But Rich, thank you so much for coming, for talking
It
to
is
us
my
about
pleasure.